Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel and I hope you're all doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about will the Canadian housing market, will it crash or will prices continue to stay hot? I'm going to talk about the impact on policy and what the government needs to do as the housing market it is out of control. And those who are trying to get into the market, they're losing hope day by day. Early stages into the pandemic, many buyers wondered, is this the global event that's going to send prices down so they can finally get into the market? Before the pandemic, many buyers were looking for a route into the market as prices had continued to climb upward with no signs of stopping. Many were hoping for an event or some sort of causation that would put the prices to a standstill or better yet, cause them to fall because more and more buyers were getting priced out by the day. Prices were insanely competitive, especially when you're looking at the hot markets of Toronto and Vancouver. Many buyers were waiting for an opportunity so they can finally get into the housing market into Toronto and Vancouver. The thought was that the pandemic was putting everything into a standstill and the housing market would be no different. Prices would finally stop rising and buyers would have a chance to get in. For many, the dream of home ownership into one of the world's most expensive housing markets was it finally about to become reality? Many have been holding on to this dream of home ownership for so long, moving in and out of rental properties, changing many different landlords, just waiting for their time, waiting for the opportunity to finally get in. Whether you agree or not, owning a home today is still considered to be a form of stability and security in one's life. Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with renting, especially when you're trying to figure things out, and that may mean renting for a longer period. The notion of home ownership is a very strong belief in Canada. It's no wonder why many have this housing lust and are willing to go through multiple rounds of bidding wars through the stressful times just to be part of this group. So this was the expectation back in March of 2020, as we were witnessing multiple business closures and lockdowns were happening everywhere as the pandemic made its way through across the country. Those waiting on the sidelines of home ownership wondered, is there a moment finally coming to fruition? Fast forward to May of 2020, and CMHC sent out a warning calling for a price drop as much as 18% from its peak. And it wasn't just CMHC, there were banks that were calling for a drop. Some major banks even had a forecast calling for a pricing drop of at least 30%. I even made a video of it. By the way, if you're new to the channel or you've seen my content before, do me one huge favor, hit that like and subscribe button. It does two things. One, it lets me know to produce more content like this, and two, you don't miss out on future videos. There were many people expecting a major price drop, CMHC, major banks, aspiring homeowners, but you know how the story unfolded. Canada went on to record an extraordinary housing boom, one that extended far beyond the hot housing markets of Toronto and Vancouver. As of April 2021, home prices are up a whopping 23% compared to just a year ago. Instead of a housing crash, the already unaffordable Canadian housing market became even more unaffordable. It just leaves me speechless. I have no words on what to say. This housing market is insanity. It just keeps going up. It's almost like there's nothing that can bring it down. The housing market, it was already at all-time highs. And this pandemic, it pushed the housing market to even bigger all-time highs. What is going on here? Honestly, I'm at a loss for words when I think about what's happening. Sometimes I just don't even want to think about what's happening, but the reality is this market makes no sense. It's insane. I don't know, it's insane. And if you're watching this video, whether you own a home or are renting, you're probably wondering, where are home prices? Where are they headed next? Will there even be an actual opportunity to jump into the housing market? Will you be able to own a home in the not so distant future? The insanity, the feverishness, the madness, or whatever other colorful adjective you want to use to describe our housing market, the problem we face, it's very, very, very real. I can't even tell you how many times I get asked, will the Canadian housing market, will it crash? Or will prices continue to stay hot? Here's where we are today. The crazy price appreciation that the housing market is seeing, it's definitely unsustainable. Full stop. If you believe that the prices are sustainable, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So please do let me know in the comments if you believe the prices are sustainable, where are they headed next? One aspect is that when borders reopen and immigration resumes, there will be new demand put on the housing market, and that will keep the prices up. Remember, it's all about supply and demand. We have a ton of demand, but we also have very, very tight supply. Now add in more demand on top, and you know exactly where the prices will go. Unsustainable. This term gets tossed around a lot, especially when it comes to describing the housing market. You may see it in the news, you may see it on videos, you may see it on blogs to describe the housing market. And the reason this term gets used around a lot is because there's an assumption that prices have gone up so much that a major pricing correction is just around the corner. Unsustainable, by its very definition, means cannot be maintained at the current rate or level. That's one side expecting a correction, but on the other side, you have people wondering, can prices go up even higher? As much as I'm hoping that prices return to some sort of healthy, normal level, there is a very real possibility that prices could, yes, they could eventually rise. Especially if the borders open and we're able to attract international talent just like we've done in the past. Canada is a country built on immigration. It's our diversity, it's our acceptance of others that makes us who we are. While Canada's borders have been closed to most immigrants since March of 2020 to help limit the spread of COVID-19, the government has been increasing immigration targets to help boost the economy and to help offset an aging population, right? Because immigration is not a bad thing. It's good for the economy. It's good for our diversity. Between 2016 and 2019, Canada welcomed nearly 1 million new permanent residents. And between 2017 and 2018, net immigration accounted for 80% of the country's population growth. Just in 2019, 5.8 million travel documents were issued to visitors, workers, and students. 400,000 temporary work permits were issued under the Temporary Foreign Worker and International Mobility Programs, and close to 75,000 individuals transitioned from temporary to permanent residence. So that's immigration, and we're going to come back to this in a second. Looking at tight supply, when mortgage rates dropped because of COVID-19 and its economic impact, this overnight increased the pool of buyers, allowing more people to enter the housing market. We already had tight supply before, but by dropping the mortgage rates, increasing the pool of buyers, this fueled prices to where they are today. The lockdowns also pushed home buyers away from city centers and into smaller towns and rural areas. The hot housing market, it's no longer just limited to Toronto and Vancouver. It's spilled nationwide. So here's the problem. Mass immigration plus tight supply. This is not an ideal situation. While the pool of newcomers and their proven credentials is a coveted resource for the labor markets and the economy, it creates demand for housing, which the governments at all levels have largely failed to plan. The cities, the provincial governments, the federal government, they're all missing the big picture, and for whatever reason, can't seem to pull it together. At the end of the day, we need to make sure we have enough housing for everyone. Right now, Canada's targeting over 1.2 million immigrants to enter the country in the next few years. Do we have enough housing inventory to sustain these levels? If we leave the housing market as is, sure, it might cool off and price growth slows down, sure. But why take that to chance? Why not take actual, measurable steps? The supply needs to be addressed. The government has to take real, actionable steps. Recently, tougher mortgage rules came into effect for both uninsured and insured mortgages on June 1. And maybe, just maybe, this will pour some cold water into our sizzling hot housing market. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how this plays out. But for now, what are these tougher new mortgage rules? The stress test. The government raised the level of the stress test for mortgages. It's a two-tier system. The first tier is 5.25%, and the second tier is 2 full percentage points above the borrower's mortgage rates, whichever is higher. In other words, the stress test is a minimum threshold that anyone applying for a mortgage in Canada must meet. It doesn't itself make the loan any more expensive. Rather, it ensures that anyone getting a mortgage will be able to pay it off if the rates go up. To put this into better perspective, let's take a look at an example. Let's say you want to buy a home for $400,000 and you have a $100,000 down payment. That means you need a mortgage of $300,000. At a 2% standard 25-year loan, it would cost you, the buyer, $1,270 a month. But under the new rules, the mortgage would be tested as if the borrowing rate was 5.25%. At that level, the loan would cost you, the buyer, 40% more each and every month. It would now be $1,788 a month. Remember, this is a theoretical test to see if you have cushion if the rates do go up. It doesn't actually make your loan that expensive. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out, but I'm not so sure if this alone will be enough to cool the hot housing market, because the real issue is the short supply, and that needs to be addressed by all three levels of government. We can't all just tackle the demand side by ignoring the supply side altogether. There is so much uncertainty right now. Buyers are at war with one another. Prices are soaring, and people across the country are imploring all three levels of the government to help provide some relief. And I truly hope the government is listening. Because right now, there is no national housing strategy to find out how we're going to accommodate not only our current residents, but all those who are going to continue to come into this country. Real estate, like all sectors of the market, is deeply affected by domestic monetary and fiscal policies. Governments use both tools to create stable economic growth. While fiscal policy does this through taxation and spending, monetary policy involves managing our supply of money and credit through a central bank. And when it comes to the stress test, only the chartered banks are the only lenders required to use them. There is a large and growing number of lenders, both private individuals and private companies, that aren't federally regulated. The stress test may just take the lending activity away from the bigger banks and give them to the alternatives. But if we're serious about improving the housing affordability in this country, we need to move beyond the demand issue and shift our focus on fixing the supply. Thank you so much for watching. This channel would not exist without your love and support. So please do me one other favor. Check out the links in the description of this video. I have offers to various discounts and sign-up bonuses. Every click directly helps support the channel. If you have questions for me, feedback on this video, or maybe you have ideas on future content, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And while you're at it, please make sure you've hit that like and subscribe button. That's it for now. I'll talk to you guys in the comments.